like to ask you if you wouldn't mind, please, to put your, either turn them off, which we understand you got businesses to run, or go ahead and put them on vibrate. That would be much appreciated. The other thing of it is as you came in this afternoon, you were given a survey. And on your way out, would you please leave that with Steve at the back of the door? They really appreciate having the feedback on these programs and appreciate your coming here today to join us for this program. My pleasure today is to introduce to you the virtual farm tour sponsored by the American Jersey Cattle Association. I am Sherry Bear. I am the Director of Development, and that's all we need to say about me at this point, because what we're really interested in is the herd that we're going to visit today. This herd had posted a 2014 lactation average on about 224 completed records of 18,000 pounds of milk at 5.3% fat and 3.8% protein. So that should give a pretty good clue right there that they produce for a cheese market, and indeed they produce for one of the premier cheddar cheese makers in the world, Tillamook County Creamery Cooperative Association. This particular herd has to date bred and or developed 112 cows with over 100,000 pounds lifetime, the leader in that particular category based on 305-day lactation credits of almost 207,000 pounds in 10 lactations, the excellent 91 Kyle May. The current appraisal average, the type evaluation or classification, is 84.4%. That includes 34 cows scored excellent and 95 cows scored very good, 85 to 89. In the Jersey breed, just so I can put this into perspective, if you don't know our scale, our very good is on a 10-point scale, so it goes from 80 to 89. So that gives you some sense of how to place the herd average at 84.4. The herd is the breeder of, to date, 222 excellent cows, 2 of them in the very elite category of 95 points, 3 at 94, 17 at 93, and you get the basic picture there. This year's theme of World Dairy Expo is what? Dairy in our DNA. And I want to point out that this particular herd has genotyped 518 females to date. The average of all of them, all ages, going back to the oldest one, the cow that was 22 years old when she passed away, included in this average, the average cheese merit is $243 and PTA of fat of 33 pounds. 294 bulls have been placed in AI to date. 119 of those bulls have had daughter summaries. 84 of them are plus for cheese merit dollars. And this operation has bulls with every AI organization in the United States, North America, and several around the world. Finally, 10 of the top 25 active AI Jersey bulls on the August evaluations came from this particular herd. So would you please join me in a round of applause for Eric Silva. So Eric, it's a real pleasure to have you here with us today and take us on a tour of Sunset Canyon Jerseys. And for the audience who are still filing in, and please come on in, we have some seats down front over here too, and they're scattered around. We've got some, we can work with this, no problem, please come in. We're gonna have a relaxed conversation about this operation and the many ways that dairy is in your DNA. So, Eric, this picture essay was titled Dreams, Family, Faith, and Friends. So would you share your story about how you got into the Jersey business?
Sure. Thanks for everybody for coming today. I was not born on a dairy farm, but I had a passion for cows through my parents and my grandparents. And my 4-H leader, Phil Finelli, was the man that sort of mentored me along. And when I got out of high school, another friend of mine, Dennis Arrayes, who Joe knows well, loaned me $50,000 to buy 70 Jersey cows in those days, and put me in business, and that was in 1988. And there was a lot of really good people along the way that helped us and or helped me until I met my wife in, when did I meet my wife? 1993, I think.
I think that sounds right.
And we married in 1995, and she is my best friend, and her 2 kids and our 3 kids that we have together, the 5 of us, built a dream. In 1995, we moved to the Oregon coast and started Sunset Canyon in a different way, and focused more on breeding for fat and cheese yield, cheese pounds, and here we are today.
Okay, so let's introduce the members of the family.
Okay, so left to right, I have our son Sam, our son Valari. That's the grandson. We call him Pork Chop. His name is Brody. Brody's his real name. I'm sorry. Yeah, his mother's gonna kill me. Stepson Nathan, daughter-in-law Kaylee, grandson Jace, granddaughter, my wife, and Jackson.
Very good.
That's the family.
That's the family. So Eric, every one of us who has been lucky enough to get to Sunset Canyon, you're located in Beaver, Oregon, which is south of Tillamook.
Right on the Oregon coast, yeah.
Okay. Remarks on what a beautiful setting it is, as we can see a little bit in this still. So, but for those of us in the audience here today who haven't seen the farm, would you mind on taking us on a little walkabout?
Sure.
This will start. It was going to start.
That's okay, that helps break the ice.
There we go.
So this is the farm sign. That's our box stall barn there. We have 12 box stalls where we keep our higher end cows, so we can watch them a little closer. We do our flushing and stuff in that barn. So this view is from the house. There's the milking parlor there to the right. I don't know who that guy is walking up the driveway.
Gotcha. So how many cows are you milking?
Milking 280, and we'll be at 400 by the middle of December.
Okay. You want to talk a little bit about the ration?
Yeah, the ration consists of 24 pounds of purchased grain, 12 pounds of purchased alfalfa hay dry, 12 pounds of alfalfa baleage, and 35 pounds of corn silage that we grow at home.
And you told me that the ration's costing how much per cow per day?
$7.20 a day.
Okay.
It's about where it is now. Of course, that varies over time.
This cow right here.
This cow is Action Anthem, and she was supreme champion at our local show, and also premier performance cow at the Western National this last year. That's her again there.
So where are we in the barn?
This is just as they go into the parlor, and then that's kind of where they exit. That's the same cow there. We use the heat time from AI-24 for heat detection. Milking that's a double 10 parallel parlor that we built 2 years ago. That sign was on my grandfather's dairy probably 50, 60 years ago.
So what's your throughput in the parlor? How many?
We're milking about 80 cows an hour.
Okay. And current production is running at what?
At 50, so we get, for the last 6 months, we've been between 58 and 60 pounds of milk with a 5.4 fat and a 3.9 protein. It's 13.5 pounds of cheese. This is the new freestall barn that we're building now that's almost done. There's 285 lockups and 295 beds in that barn. It'll have barn scrapers and water beds, all the good stuff.
So are you in an expansion mode right now?
We are in expansion mode. We have 2 kids that are home now, and we bought 200 acres of land recently that borders us, and we're going to about double our cow numbers. So it's a viable business for them to take over.
Calf set up?
Calves are all raised in hutches outside.
Yeah, talk to us about
this
this.
is our cornfield here, and most of this land was all in forest in February. We had that all cleared by the middle of May and planted all that in corn. So most of that you see was all in forest, just like you see behind you. It was all cut, stumped, burned. We picked rocks and sticks until our hands were ready to fall off, but we got it done. 77 acres we cleared. And the stuff way in the back that you can see, there's 30 acres back there that'll be cleared this year. This is our alfalfa crop here. We have 60 acres of alfalfa.
And what did you say your yield on this was?
We're right at 4 tons of dry alfalfa per acre for the year. And I'd like to get our yields up a little higher. I don't think that's quite good enough. But the pH in the soil there is in the high 4s, low 5s, so it takes an awful lot of lime, which you can't put all that on at one time. So we're trying to get that, to raise that over time. This is a heifer barn here that we built 2 years ago.
So the entire heifer operation is contained in
Yeah,
your
all
facility.
the calves are born there, all the heifers are raised there. Everything is born there and stay there till they leave. We raise everything at home.
So when you finish the barn, how many cows are you going to go to? Did you tell us that?
We'll be at 400.
Okay. Nice group of 2-year-olds walking past us there.
This is where I like to spend my time when I get done working in the afternoon. Or maybe to get out of a little bit of work.
And what is
now
the
and then.
river?
The Nestucca River.
And tell us about this.
This is probably, the hog Maid cow is probably the most influential Jersey cow of the, I don't know, pick a time period. Just amazing what she's done. And we bought her in 1995, and she lived to be 22 years old, and when we buried her there, we thought it would be kind of fitting to honor her for what she did for our whole family and the entire Jersey breed. So we put that stone up there for her.
So she's back there by the river.
She is back there by the river, yes.
Okay. All right. So to get into the heart of the program today, let's listen to this clip. Era was out visiting Eric about a month ago, and I think it probably will help us get a handle on where we're going to go with the rest of the discussion today. Okay? Whoops. No, I know it.
Yeah, that's what my wife says. That's what my wife said, the same thing, Joe.
Okay, excuse me, folks. We got to, well, that's setting right. Where's my camera guy? Shall we try it again? Okay. This should be sound. I suppose we can.
Yeah, let's not let this bother us. Let's go on to the next thing.
Okay. We'll let him work on the sound here a little bit, and we'll come back to that. So what Eric was talking about was the fact that when they got started, you were talking about your mentors and what they did as a strategy to build a herd.
Yes, have I got sound now? Oh, I turned on my voice. I can just talk louder if I need to.
Okay, so we're back on. Here we go. Okay, so talk about your mentors.
My mentor, Phil Finelli, took me to New England as a kid in the early 80s. And there was a cow there that he was in love with, and he always wanted a daughter of this cow. Mm-hmm. So embryo transfer was sort of at the infancy stage at that time. And it would have been in the mid 80s, he got this Anna cow flushed to a bull of his, Duncan, who was the kind of the big bull in the day. And there was 5 heifer calves from her that were 3 to 5 months old by Duncan in a pen when we got there. It was Phil and I and Shannon Lorenzo. And so Phil asked us to pick the calf that we liked the best. And we picked the calf that we liked. And he said, well, we're not buying that one. We're buying that one over there in the corner. I'll never forget that. And she was kind of a sway-backed, sloped-rumped, kind of an ugly kind of a heifer. We were horribly disappointed. But it was $2,000, and each of us put in $700 to buy this. It was a lot of money at the time, you know. anyway, we bought the heifer that Phil liked, and we brought her home, and she was by far and away the best one of the flush when it was all done, and started an incredible cow family for us. This is her probably as a 5-year-old. Mm-hmm. That was on a cover of a magazine, and I guess it escapes me what magazine it was on the cover of it, but anyway, yeah, she was a marvelous cow.
That was also the dam of your first All-American bull.
Yes, sold a bull. Yeah, that was the first. We sold her son at that time for $42,000. It was a huge amount of money for us. I mean, I was 20 years old, and that really helped us get started.
But even more than Midnight Storm, there was this cow.
Yeah, this was her granddaughter, and this was an interesting story. I met a kid that came from Australia that came over on an ABS tour. His name was Corey Couch. We had a daughter of the Midnight Blue cow that was on the previous slide, and he wanted to flush her to Beretta because they couldn't get Beretta semen in Australia at that time because of health regulations. And so we flushed the cow to Beretta, and I don't know, we got a half a dozen embryos that we sent to him, and there was one number 3 embryo that was cracked out of the zona, and we couldn't freeze it to send to Australia, so we put it in. And there was a heifer calf born, and that was this cow here.
So she won the National Jersey Jug Futurity?
Yeah, and my wife and my kids were entering cows in the national. We weren't not show people by any means, and my kids and my wife were entering heifers in the National Jersey Jug Futurity, and I kind of thought they were out of their mind, you know. Anyway, this heifer calved as a 2-year-old, and she was absolutely fantastic. So we bred her back, and she calved again, and we took her to the big show in Louisville, Kentucky, and she won the Jersey Jug Futurity, and was premier performance cow at the All-American show at that time. And yeah, this is more of her information here. And I think probably still today, she's probably the only cow in breed history to win a national show and have a successful son in AI. Her son All-Star went to Gen X, sold 280,000 straws of semen, most of which was sexed, and is the #1 unit semen selling bull in the history of Gen X Cooperative.
So talk about the cow pictured here.
Well, this would be an All-Star daughter from the Duncan Bell line on the bottom, but that's probably the best All-Star daughter we have, and we're still calving him. His sex semen is incredibly fertile, and that was kind of his claim to fame.
Okay. So let's move to the Anthem family today, and you mentioned one. You pointed out one in the videotape. Let's talk about this cow.
Yeah, this cow is 6 generations down from Old Anthem, and all 6 generations are excellent. This is Action Anthem that was premier performance cow at the Western National Show this year. So the family just, I wouldn't say that they're getting better, but they are kind of getting better. I mean, it's been a good family since the, I don't know, late 60s, early 70s, and they seem to keep doing it, and, type and production both.
So do I remember that you talked about this family as bringing milk volume, that this was their claim to fame?
The rear udders, whenever cows didn't have rear udders, those families had them.
Okay.
And they took us to a different level from where we were before.
Okay. So one thing while we're here at a transition phase, we would like to go ahead and entertain some questions if they come up in the period of time as we're going on. So Mr. Russell Gammon is back there with a microphone. And so we'll continue on here, but if you've got a question, just raise your hand and we'll get you found, okay? And go forward. So we're going to move forward now, again, back to the theme of dairy in our DNA, and let's see if we can get this clip to come up and play.
But I do try to listen. I've got a handful of really large dairy producers that we sell semen to, and I try to listen to what they want, and I'll ask them, so what do you want? Well, the first thing they want is a pregnant cow, so sire conception rates are hugely important. Okay. If you sell a guy semen that doesn't get a cow bred, you're done. That's the first. That's first and foremost. So we try to make sure that our bulls can do that. I don't know. After that, the rest is. They got to have good udders, and they have to test high, and they should live a long time. But I think everybody wants that. I mean, who wants a cow that has a bad udder, tests low, and doesn't live very long?
Russell, you got one of those you need to get bred? No tomatoes, please. This is Tin Hog Maid, and this is an incredible story. She had a daughter in the Kentucky National Sale in 1995, and we were moving to Oregon, and my wife got the catalog, and she was reading it in the pickup on the way up. There was a daughter of this cow in the sale, and she looked at this cow and she says, "My gosh, I can't believe it. This cow tests 7% fat and 4.5 protein." It was off the charts. We were moving to Tillamook, where fat and protein are priced the same. So I don't know, 3 or 4 days went by, and I called the University of Tennessee and tried to get this cow bought, and they didn't want to sell her to us.
Yeah.
So I called John Wilk. All the university people know each other, and John got the cow bought. And I sent Mike Deaver back to get her. We didn't go to see this cow. And Mike Deaver calls me on the phone and said, "Have you seen this cow?" And I said, "No," thinking she probably looked pretty bad, you know. And he said, "Well, you don't have a cow like her, I'll tell you that." So 4 or 5 days later, he delivers this cow, and we were just, it was mind-boggling how good she was. She scored 93 points. She was bred at that time to Greenwood Poseidon, and she was dry already. She had a bull calf, and we put him in the All-American sale, and he topped the sale at $54,000.
Yeah.
And after that, it was incredible. The price of fat changed. Everything changed. We were saturated with, with particular bloodlines at the time. The cow was Danish bred for 2 generations herself, and just changed everything. So we started flushing the cow, and she flushed like crazy. And she made several sons, and you have a...
Yeah. Let's go to the bulls.
So these are her 5 sons that ranked number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 for PTA fat all at the same time. It was pretty amazing. Maximus on the left, and Mecca, who would be the second bull from the right, we actually sold to Dave Hogan. Becky's here somewhere.
Yeah, where is Becky? Here she is.
Sold them to her dad, and I don't know, they milked several thousand daughters of those bulls at that time. Militia on the left, we leased to CMEX through Cedar Crest Farms. That's a group of his daughters there. He was the number 1 JPI bull at the time. Maximus on the left was number 1 for fat. Matinee was the number 1 fat bull not long after that. Mecca has a son named Javon, and Javon figures pretty heavy in a lot of pedigrees today, that even the ones that we didn't breed. And then Maximum on the right went to DeGraff's down in Pixley, California, and really did a good job for them down there. And sired Renegade, who would be the sire to our what's his name? Dimension bull now, who is the number 1 JPI bull now. So the bulls have had a huge impact throughout the entire breed.
Yeah, but so have the females.
This was probably her best daughter. This cow was 93 points and had she have a 7.2 fat and 4.6 protein lifetime. And it was interesting because she was probably not the highest producing one of the 5 daughters. There was 5 as 2-year-olds. She wasn't, but genomics picked her out to be the best one. And by the time she had her 3rd calf, she was indeed the best one, and it's been the best breeding cow of the whole bunch. And I think this cow's got 145 or 155 daughters now.
Okay.
Through IVF. We said she's gone now, but when she was an old cow, we sent her down to Casbergens in Tulare, California, and they did a lot of IVF work on her. And she's actually got a daughter that's going to be showed at Louisville this year.
Okay. But she also is a show winner herself.
I guess I forgot that part. She was also Premier Performance Cow at the Western National Show.
Not bad.
Pretty good cow. This is her daughter by Centurion. That's at Covington's, and she's excellent 94. This cow's got a full sister in Australia at Riverside, Jersey, that's also 94 points.
And there's multiple sons of this cow.
You want to turn that on?
You'll want it on soon. Covington's in Iowa.
In Iowa, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So you haven't been,
Stingy.
very generous in selling these over the years.
Yeah, well, we've tried to do that. And this is the one that we kept. This is Impulse Maid 4. And this cow is the dam to Machete, who's in the top 10 AI bulls today, of the proven bulls. And she's probably been the best breeding female now of this next line.
Okay.
And these are her 2 daughters, or 2 of her, I don't know, 30 or 40 daughters. But the cow on the left, we sold in the summer Hummer sale. And Travis and his wife bought her and flushed her to another, well, not a bull that we bred, but a grandson of a bull that we bred. And that's the calf that she had on the bottom, and she topped the Avonlea Summer Splash this year at, what,
53,000?
$53,000. The cow on the right, we sold to Masiska Farm in Quebec. I think, Russell, you had something to do with that. And her son, Masiska McKenzie, topped the All-American sale 2 years ago at $100,000. So it's kind of fun that after they really made a difference for us, but then we've sold daughters and granddaughters, and they've actually gone and done even better for other people, and that's kind of where it is for us, I guess. These are her 2 other daughters at home. The daughter by Valentino, both daughters were flushing a lot. Both of them have got multiple calves on the high GJPI list. Those 2 cows would be full sisters. There's another full sister who we haven't pictured, who is the granddam to the bull on the bottom, got Maid, and I believe he is currently the number 1 or number 2 GJPI bull in the breed. Am I correct on that?
He's up there.
He's up there somewhere. So he's the next generation.
Okay. So let's fast forward to 2008. Oh, let's go back.
Yeah,
We missed something on Maid and her particular role in the develop of Jersey genotyping and genomics.
Yeah, Maid was one of 5 cows. I can't remember who the other 4 cows were, but Maid was one of the 5 cows that we sent blood in, actually at that time, to do DNA testing. So it was fun to be part of that, part of developing that.
She was part of the basic research that created the Jersey breed profile for the reference set in that period of time. Okay? But now we're going to 2008, and official genomic evaluations are coming very soon. And you go to the All-American sale. Out of the Maid family, you sell the high-selling female, and you bring back the 5th high-selling female from that sale that sets you on a new path. So will you tell us about this cow?
Okay, this is Pearlmont Impulse Daffy, and we bought her as a 3-year-old in the All-American sale from Pearlmont Farm. We had not used her sire. Impulse was a popular bull at the time, and we had not used him, and this was an opportunity to buy a good daughter of his. And she was not genotyped when we bought her. But I learned from my mentor, Phil Finelli, that depth of pedigree was the most important thing in the world. And to try to look at the inside of the cow, not the outside. She was not a pretty cow by any means, but she's bred extremely well. And so commercial genotyping came available. We genotyped the cow, and the results came back, and she was the number 1 cow in the breed. So that was kind of cool,
You had partners on this cow?
I had partners, Bruce Roos and Cara Hale. They were actually the contending bidders on our high-selling female that night.
Okay.
And to thank them, I said, why don't you guys pay for the cow, and I'll do the marketing. And they thought that was kind of a good idea. I think they thought it was a good idea anyway. And so they did. They bought the cow, and we owned her,
Okay.
a third, and I did the marketing. And we started out flushing the cow. The first few bulls we did to her were all genomic bulls at the time. And these are, I just pulled this off of Hort's Dairyman's magazine and circled those with a pen in the office, but those are the top 25 daughter-proven bulls in the U.S. today, ranked by net merit on the left and JPI on the right. And Daybreak, Dimension, Determinate, Dominos, and Dignitary are all sons of Daffy. Machete there is a son of Impulse Maid. Dividend is a grandson of Daffy, and Mahari is a grandson of Impulse Maid.
Okay. So we're starting to see pictures of her son's daughters across the country. Talk about this.
Right. These are David daughters at Robin Carey's. Pretty excited about to have that picture. So this bull is currently at CMEX. This is another kind of a cool story, but Dick Smith from ABS had contracted Daffy when she was still owned by the Pearls in Vermont to restore. The calves were not born yet when we bought Daffy. They were still pregnancies. And when the calves were born, Mrs. Pearl genotyped them, and they were number 1 and number 2 JPI heifers in the breed. So Mrs. Pearl called me and asked me if I'd be interested in buying those 2 heifers, and we did. And this is Dixie here. She's probably Daffy's best daughter, and she's the dam to Dividend and Divine at Gen X. And we sold her after that to River Valley Farm, and they have several sons and grandsons of her now. The cow on the bottom right now, that would be a renegade daughter of her full sister that we also bred, and she's at River Valley, one of their higher producing cows there now.
The decoy bull.
The decoy was Dixie's son by Valentino, and he's accelerated right now. These are his three of his daughters anyway, at Olive Farms in California.
Okay. We have any questions while we're sitting here before we go? We've kind of marched through the group pretty quickly.
Allowed to ask
Absolutely.
It's a serious question too. Eric, what have Maid and Daffy and some of the other cow families taught you about genomics in terms of the confidence that you can have in the results, but also how you use it as a tool to make better cows, make some money for your farm, no question, but to make better cows too, and bulls?
I think in the day of we have embryo transfer and we have the ability to make so many calves today. I think it's really helped us sort which females to work with and which males to work with from the next generation. I don't, it's 60% reliable or something like that, and it's not everything, but it's certainly a really, really good tool to use. And most of the time, it has been really successful at sorting the litter mates. It's been really good at that.
Okay. So let's go on and talk about what I've labeled, for lack of a better term, your future impact cow from the Daffy family.
This is Matinee Daffy, and she's one of the highest DPR, daughter pregnancy rate cows of the breed today. And it's interesting how things change. Sherry and I were talking about, people will say, well, they're always changing the formula, and it's kind of a good thing that they do. I think our breed changes really fast. When we implement something and decide something's important, it's really easy for that to happen in the Jersey breed. And we're to a point now where I think DPR, or maybe fertility in general, has become a really important thing. And this is a cow here that's had her 3rd calf that never even was on anybody's radar before, but now, because she's such a high fertility cow, I guess my point is, it's interesting how the cow that you kind of ignore for a while, a lot of times ends up being the cow that you need to go back to. So that's why in our breeding program, we don't try to make every cow the same. I think it's good to have cows that are good for different things at different times. And don't ignore the index of the day, but maybe kind of go with your gut a little bit and breed the kind of cow that you like, so you have something to go back to.
Okay. So we've talked about 3 basic families here. We've mentioned, let's go back. We've Midnight Blue, the anthems, okay, Maid, and then the Daffy group. We've mentioned Duncan Bell briefly, but that's not all that you have developed over the years and have other worldwide connections. So let's just take a look at 4 pictures here and talk about these.
Okay, the cow on the left is Hallmark Bell. In maybe around the year 2000, we bought a Midnight Storm daughter. That was the bull we sold in the All-American sale. We bought a Midnight Storm daughter out of Duncan Bell from Steve Borland, and bred her to Hallmark, who was a high, mainstream high JPI bull of the day, and that produced the Hallmark Bell cow on the upper left. She was also Premier Performance cow at Louisville as a 3-year-old. The picture just below that is a Benefactor daughter. That was her son that was at Sexing Technologies, and she was champion at a big show in Columbia. The cow on the bottom right was an Anthem cow that was a Sultan daughter that was exported to Australia as an embryo. And the cow on the top right is probably my favorite cow. That was a Country Lollipop cow. Her great-granddam we exported to Australia as an embryo in the early 90s. And she was owned by Corey and Karen Couch down there. So it's kind of cool to see these cows go around the world with them and their sons and make an impact.
So one of the things you mentioned here about the Daffy cow was, as you said, you buy her, I'll market her. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about your marketing approach and some of the things that you do.
Yeah, I love that part of the business. It's fun because we talk about the cow business, but I think it's really the people business, and cows are, they're part of it, and we all like that. The whole family enjoys the marketing part of it. And we sell quite a few embryos, and we sell a lot of bulls to AI, but we also market a few bulls on our own here and there, and probably will continue to do some of that.
Okay, well, the brochure was done several years ago, but it's still on the website or on the internet that it can be viewed, right?
Yeah, it is, yeah. It's kind of, I would encourage everybody to go through it and look at what we were doing then and some of the things that we were talking about. And a lot of the heifers that were just, or the animals that were just heifers and young calves, and some that weren't even born yet, they were just ET pregnancies that we were talking about in that, at that time to see what they've done.
But that brochure introduced the concept of what was called trifecta 10.
Yeah, that was a kind of a cool thing that we put together. We had the #1 cheese merit heifer in the breed through genotyping, and the #1 and 2 JPI heifers. And they were only 10 months old, and we flushed them at that time to the 3 highest GJPI bulls.
Genomic bulls.
Genomic bulls, exactly. Okay. And there was, I don't know, there was 12 or 14 pregnancies. There was 6 bulls born out of that flush. And we syndicated those and sold a 10% share to 10 different dairy farmers. And Gen X took those bulls and leased them from us, and they are all in their top bunch of bulls today as proven bulls. So it kind of it turned out really good. I don't know if we can be that smart again, but we're going to try anyway.
And talk about Facebook. How do you use
Yeah, my
Facebook?
daughter-in-law told me I need to get on Facebook because it's right up my alley, and I did not want to do it. And now I have a hard time putting it down, Russell. No, it's a great tool, and when I wake up in the morning, if I go out in the field or if there's a neat calf born or something like that, I try to post that and keep people abreast of what we're doing every day. So we do more of that because the printed stuff is fun, but the minute you print it before it gets home from the printer, it's outdated already. So I like to use Facebook to kind of keep people in touch with what we're doing.
And one of the things that you do there is you're building albums of cow families. Pictures,
Exactly.
right? So they're being built all the time.
Yeah, and it's interesting to go back and look at the things that you were excited about and the claims that you made and all that kind of stuff, a year or two later, and see where you were right and where you were wrong.
Okay. All right, so dairy in our DNA, and I would like to share with you one final clip from our conversation last August, and then we will open up the floor to questions, okay? Let me make sure I get,
Think this one's going to work?
I hope so.
Well, if it doesn't, that's all right.
No.
I think we've got a pretty unique group of genetics here, and they're not all the same. We have high milk cows, we have high fat cows, we have high protein cows. I think that the next big push is going to be health traits, and I think long term, it's going to be components and health traits. So we try to use a variety of bulls and not make every cow the same. So if we ever need to go back to something, we can do that. Whereas if you make them all the same, if you use all the same bulls and then you have only one product to sell. So we still breed some type calves, and but I mean, our focus, of course, is on production. But otherwise, how are you going to when trends change, registered people become irrelevant if they're not willing to change along with it. And I think because we're passionate about it, we want to stay relevant, and that means that we're going to have to change over time.
That's an interesting thought, Eric. Any more did you want to add to that? Because you have, in your career to date, gone across everything from the introduction of index selection, looking for animals in New England, being there at the beginning of genomics, and here we are, and DNA is clearly going to be driving breeding programs going forward.
I don't think I have anything to add. It's maybe just get some questions. I
Well,
might add something they don't want to know about.
Fair enough. So let's open it up to questions right up here. Russell, right in the front. And we do want to get this on so everybody can hear the question.
Good morning, and thank you for okay, good morning, and thank you.
Dug into it.
I'm going to take Mr. Silva back to his roots with my question, and that is, how'd you come up with the prefix you have?
When I was a kid, we lived on the corner of Sunset Avenue and Canyon Road. And I'll tell a little bad story on myself, but one time I went down to visit my grandparents, and I showed my son the Sunset Canyon sign, road sign, and he said, you know, Dad, we really need to steal that and take it home. And I said, well, if you don't tell Grandma, I said, we'll get it right now. And we got it. Believe me, we got it. We got two of them, as a matter of fact. So that's where that came from. Yeah, just don't tell the county people.
Did we establish that you started in California?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Eric, I was just curious, now inbreeding is a concern, and how do you address that in your breeding programs now? You're looking for those outcross sires, or how are you addressing that?
I guess we look at our herd as more of a seed stock herd for the rest of the breed. So we're not as concerned with inbreeding. In fact, we've done quite a bit of it, to kind of see where it takes us. It's like the old, if it's bad, it's inbreeding. If it's good, it's what do you call that?
Line
breeding. Line breeding. Yeah, sorry, didn't have the words for that. I think as a breed we could get inbred, but Sherry and I were talking about this yesterday. One of the beauties of indexes changing is it allows different bloodlines to come in and dominate. If the index doesn't change, all of a sudden everything else becomes the same and you get into a corner. So, in the early 90s, our breed was dominated by high milk, high protein, sort of anti-fat bulls. I mean, fat was a bad word. And then all of a sudden the price of fat goes up and the index changes, and Danish cattle who that were not popular at all in the United States, all of a sudden become the craze. And so now we have high fat, we have high protein, we have a lot of high production, and now we're going to look at health traits, and that's going to take a lot of the cow families that are dominating today, that are supposedly causing the inbreeding, and it's going to take them, it's going to put them in the back seat, and other cows with higher fertility traits are now going to come to the forefront. So I wouldn't say I don't worry about inbreeding, but I kind of don't worry about it. That makes sense? We can lose a lot of progress worrying about things that are to come that never happen.
I have some practical questions. What type of money do you get for the embryos, the range, and also what does AI charge for some of the semen?
Our embryos are usually priced in the $800 to $900 range, depending on volume. We don't really sell a lot of embryos. It hasn't been something that we've done a lot because we're doing our higher genetic females at that time. So we sell a few, but it hasn't really been a big market. And I would probably direct you to Russell or Dick or some of the other people as far as the AI, what they do on semen, and maybe they're not, maybe their salespeople are the people to ask.
Eric, we've known each other a while, and I really appreciate a lot of your comments in terms of breeding and genetics. And so I'd like to ask you to go back again a little bit to some of the people that you knew early on, maybe one of your neighbors in the Holstein business that sounded a lot like your quote, sounded like his quote.
Oh, yeah, Wally Linskog. Is that who you're talking about?
The commercial man telling us where we need to go, and also your in-laws when you get a chance.
Yeah, my in-laws are wonderful people. They're Jersey people, and I actually met them 5 years before I met my wife, Don and Betty Wolf. And my father-in-law is gone now, but Betty is 80 years old, and she's the only woman I know that can smoke 3 packs of cigarettes a day and still walk a mile. And she plays internet Scrabble now, in case you're interested. Just make sure it's early in the morning and not too late in the afternoon. And yeah, the mentors were great guys, but Wally Linskog is probably who you're talking about. And I was talking to Jeff Ziegler about Wally this morning when I saw him at a Holstein meeting, and he got up and he had a bull Arlinda Rotate at the time that was a huge production bull. And he sired kind of big, ugly cows with so-so udders, but they gave an awful lot of milk. And this guy, it was a forum like this, and this guy kind of set Wally up, and he said, well, what about those wide front teats on those daughters? How in the heck are you going to get the milker on them? And Wally says, well, when I get home, I'm going to call De La Valle and tell him to change the milking machine because that's the problem. And everybody laughed at him, but the guy was right. He was 100% right because why do we want to take 20 pounds less milk so we can get the milker on him? Let's just change the machine. And Wally was brilliant like that. I always thought Wally was a good guy. Yeah, he was on top of it.
Yeah, I'm on. Eric, there's a lot of us in here that are in our 20s, like you and I, and
Yeah.
maybe even younger. And I'm wondering what advice you would have for young people who want to be, number one, involved in the dairy industry, but number two, maybe have a passion for genetics as well. Looking at the future and the tools we're going to have to work with. And, and the way you started out and what they need to do.
Yeah, the way I started out was tough, but the way everybody starts out is tough. It's not easy. It's never been easy to get into the farming business, particularly if it's not in your family. But you can do it and find the right mentors and find the right people and get into something that you're passionate about because you'll need that passion on the rough days, and there's going to be a lot of them. But if we could do it, I suppose anybody can. But find people that will mentor you and give you the good advice along the way. Because there is no golden answer. There's no one answer.
Don't be afraid to ask questions who have people who have a very big reputation.
Yeah.
Mrs. Wild at Hylon, perhaps, as an example.
Yeah, she was a great mentor, and they were the big deal in the Jersey business. They practically saved the breed with production breeding. And I like this little story. Mrs. Wild, for some reason, she took a liking to me, and she invited me up to the house, and I was probably in my 20s, and she was in her 80s at the time. And I always wanted just to sit with her and find out what her secret to success was. And so I asked her when I got a chance, I said, how did you do this over this 30, 40, 50-year period? How did you breed so many good bulls? How did you make so many good cows? What was your secret? And she looked at me and she paused for a minute, and I was waiting for this big fancy answer, And she looked at me and she says, Mr. Silva, we worked at it. And I remember being a little disheartened by that answer because I wanted her to tell me the secret. And there really wasn't a secret. The secret was we worked at it. You just stick with it over time, and it will come your way.
More questions, right back in the back there. Get him on the microphone. He needs to be on the mic, please.
I'll just give it all. Most of the people in the room, we know you, we love you. We enjoy just sitting and hearing stories, whether you're talking about cows or not. I will never forget mine and your ride from Kentucky National down to Sylacauga, Georgia, that took 5 days because we kept stopping at people's places just to enjoy our time. I want you to tell my favorite story, unedited, about the purchase of Maid to a degree. You don't have to give numbers, but I do want you to tell the conversation with Henry Dallin because I think it speaks volumes to your beliefs in cows and your vision for where you can take things in the breed. And there's a lot more to Maid than people realize.
Yeah, it's a great story. For starters, she and her dam were both Danish sired, and that was the University of Tennessee was an experiment station. That semen was actually brought over from Denmark to create those cows to see if Danish cattle were more mastitis resistant, if they were easy breeders, just to kind of see if Danish cattle would perform in our environment different than U.S. cattle did. So when we found the Maid cow in the sale catalog, which her daughter was in, and we called down to try to by her, Henry said, well, she's on a mastitis trial. We injected her with staph mastitis, and he says, if she doesn't die, we'll sell her to you. And I was like, you have this really cool cow, and you're trying to see if you could kill her with mastitis. The beauty of that whole thing is Henry didn't really know a cow from a goat, and nor did he care. He was there strictly to do experiments on Jersey cows. And she didn't die. Not only was she staph resistant, but she never was staph positive at all. So they sold us the cow, and Mike Deaver brought us the cow, and he asked me what I wanted to pay for the cow. I'll never forget this. And I said, well, John Wilkes said that we should give you $5,000 for this cow. And he says to me, he said, well, that seems like an awful lot of money. How about $3,000? And that was the best $3,000 I ever spent.
Yeah.
And then I said, well, I really don't have $3,000 either. So how about if I pay you in December? And he said, that sounds like a good idea. So he did, and they gave us the opportunity of a lifetime. And the cow's here today and probably had the most impact of any cow in this century, without a doubt, because of good people and people that did what they believed in. And it's a fabulous story. It really is. And as far as dollars, I mean, you can't hardly put because it grows by the tens of thousands every day, you can't hardly put a dollar figure on it. But what it did for our family and what it's done for other people, I think is where the real value is. So thank you for that question, Brad. That was a good one. And thank you for not making me do my Alabama accent. Because it's not that good. Herbie could probably do it better than me. No, that'll be later.
So, Eric, have you taught us something in what you've just said about the importance of asking and keep asking and look for opportunities? Could we have a little more time? You know what I mean?
Yeah, like be persistent. A friend of mine told me the other day that good things come to those who wait, and good things do not come to those who wait. Good things come to those who push themselves to the front of the line. And there is no there is no magic in this. My wife says that I'm the guy that jumps out of the plane and then asks for the parachute. And I think life's got, for starters, it makes things a lot more interesting. For you and your significant other, I guess. But you can make about anything work if you believe in it. You know, that tin hog Maid wouldn't have amounted to very much if we didn't believe in her and we didn't flush her and we didn't genotype her, and all these cows are that way, and all people are that way. I mean, people don't become anything unless they believe in themselves, unless they're in the right environment and have a chance. Great show cows included, right, Matt?
How much insurance does Paula have on you?
It varies.
We have time for one. Oh, here we go. One more question over here.
I love Dix. He's such a good speaker.
I didn't know I was last, but I have a question for the group rather than for Eric. Have you seen a more successful Jersey seed stock producer thus far in this century? And if not, let's give him a hand.
Oh, well, thank you. That was very nice. That was very cool. Thank you.
Well, we want to thank you for your questions. We want to thank you for coming today. I hope that it has been worth your time to join us. And Eric will still be around here yet today.
Today and tomorrow, both.
And tomorrow, that's true. So if you don't see him walking around, drop by the Jersey booth and we'll help track him down. You know, it's just a real pleasure for us to be able to do these tours where we can bring somebody from thousands of miles away and present a program here at Expo. So again, please give Eric a round of applause.
Thank you. They can find me on Facebook, too. They can find me on Facebook if they want to.